Hello again and welcome to Failure and Analysis. I'm playing Blood Bowl 2, Game 2 of Underworld Denizens versus, you guessed it, Dwarf. Dwarf. Everyone's favorite. Ooh, I get some cash though. Let's check his roster. It's Gator King. 3-1-0, beating up. Oh, he's missing a blitzer. But he's got a Troll Slayer. He's got 2 leveled runners. Block and kickoff return. Okay. So he's merely going to annihilate me. What kind of magic do we have available? Bomber Dribble Snot. Interesting. Fez. Oh, Fez. That might be fun. Chainsaw. Skitter, no. Block Claw, he's 210 though. That's too bad. How do you guys feel about Fez? I like that a lot, actually.
At Massive Bifford fan on Twitter has just sent you a rather int.
Yeah.
Would you like to take a look?
Huh? What does ogre
Let's do
on
this.
ogre action mean?
Are you ready to play?
Good day, sports fans.
They've hired a star.
Yeah, I've got some respect for those spirits.
So I feel them on
They share my love
offense.
of violence over ball play. Although, don't underestimate the dwarves when they do actually get the ball. They have it. It's nigh on impossible to get it back.
Oh, baby, don't hurt me. No more. He's like, wee, another farming game, wee. Now my Longbeard's gonna level up. So I got 1 Troll Slayer. 3 rerolls and an Apo. Got the Fame roll. I got this. I got it. Dwarf. Dwarf. Come and watch the madness. Ooh. Extra reroll. Now I can play all aggressive.
And that's a holding maneuver, if ever I saw one.
He particularly hates this guy. Killing him first before these.
Is the assist going to be enough to come out on top?
so that's 3
around
dice.
that
Then.
gold plate, like halflings round a sandwich.
3 dice on my goblins. Give them a chance.
The attacker has an assist. Come on, guys, together.
No.
Well, at least they're not dead. Yeah. The dwarves have the ball. If they manage to construct their cage, they will be nearly unstoppable.
Oh. Do nothing.
That player's a little short. Oh no, my mistake. He's on the ground.
Excuse me.
They're building a cage around the ball here. It's a solid tactic.
They're getting up close and personal, Bob.
You need to be close. So close they can smell your breath and see the dead insects in your teeth.
Any action this player makes risks a turnover. Surrounded by adversaries like that, I hope he knows what he's doing. They're going to spend time on the bench.
Okay. Wasn't your day, Zap Pig. Wasn't your day.
Players arrive to assist their teammate.
Trying to switch the field on me, huh, Dwarf?
This player likes to be well assisted.
Nice.
That was risky. Those players are very close. Smells like a fight is about to happen.
No dodges for me today. None at all.
Another player on the ground. The coach will be spitting tea.
There's a gaping hole in my defense.
Now that's a real mess.
this player. The attacker smells weakness. Safety in numbers. That's a solid formation. I want to see the opposing team have a go at the ball now.
Is about to get punched above and below the belt at the same time.
That's it. Get in their face.
It reminds me of the famous story of Nurgling and the Great Uncleaner. But this time, no miracle.
Oh, look at this. That's gonna hurt in the morning.
It's not going well. The goblins are letting me down.
Fans are ravenous, and so am I. Just one more step.
What's that you? Oh no, yeah, you're still in there. Look at you. Where are you? There's Rogue. You're on the sideline. Oh no. All right. Well, we're saving you for our big offensive drive next to Fez. Yes, they are. That's right, the last push.
Come on, guys. Together.
Get surfed.
The fans seem very adamant. Maybe a few bits of the world.
Usually not, but there was a coach that won one or two of his games in the World Cup that had a death roller, and he was by far the most entertaining coach to watch, but proved to be unsuccessful in the end. So I don't know, it sort of repopularized the death roller. So I've seen more death rollers around lately as tribute teams to him. But yeah, in a league where bloat means something, you're trying to keep your TV down, that's a good place to cut. Ooh. Stun. Yeah, super fun to use. And classic thick skull. Worst thing ever. Uh-oh. That's right. His does it a little bit.
They're getting up close and personal, Bob.
You need to be close. So close they can smell your breath and see the dead insects in your teeth. Yeah, smells like a good old-fashioned fight. This formation gives them a safe progression. It's gonna be hard to make them lose the ball.
He's thinking about it. Oh, the reroll, okay. I was like, I'm basing your cage. What is there to think about? No reroll GFI. I like it.
Is the assist gonna be enough to come out on top? They're gathering around that lone player, like halflings round a sandwich. There's nothing better than hitting someone smaller than you, Jim.
Unity is strength. Those players are very close. Smells like a fight is about to happen. That player is looking rather smug for remaining upright. Pride comes before a fall.
assist now. Listen.
Ooh, armor break. Nice.
Nuts. They're going to be carrying that scar around for the rest of their
Oh, good night. I like it. Ready for another one. Aw. Just gotta keep hitting these little nasty buggers. You'll get them. You'll get them.
Smack the player to relieve his team. Well done. The attacker has an assist.
No, that's my thrower.
All pain for that team. Their pain is our gain.
Oh, that's generous. But yeah. I mean, if we talk player value and how a lot of mine came from missed dodges, then yeah, I'm totally out bashing. And I haven't even dropped the secret weapon yet.
Amazing. That's going to
And if I don't get both KOs yet, I won't get to use them at all.
And it's gone.
Get those KOs back. Oh, I think that might be enough. No, I think I'm one short, so I have to field them.
That team's apothecary must have that
Yep,
magic sponge.
have to field them. One turn of magic.
They're short of one
That's all
player.
I get.
That's a gap that can be filled.
Curses.
Important thing, you gotta keep possession of the ball, not lose it. Strike back would be terrible.
I just couldn't see getting much value out of him on defense. Maybe I could have just put him on the line with the troll on the opposite side. Very sad. Yeah, it's just hard to make him work, but I mean, he can be a roadblock, which is useful, but just never activate him, make him go around the thing all the time, like a rooted tree. But he can do a lot of damage, so. We'll see. I can also to do a
Have you
one-turn
tried
touchdown
that
here.
Croxiade yet, Bob?
A sports drink
Suppose I
made by
should
the
try
Skaven
that.
of Clan Pestilence? No thanks. I'll give it a miss. I may not be the sharpest spike on the
So
armor,
1,
but I'm
2,
not
3,
that
4, 5,
stupid.
6, 7. There's one thrower. Oh, where's my other thrower? Oh, he didn't come back. Yeah, you're in. Too tall? Where are you? There we go. Oh, I gotta kind of move off him. I can put Blitzer up. Next to the
You know,
fanatic.
I often think Blood Bowl might be better if we just got rid of the whole ball thing and got straight to the maiming.
Let's clear him off.
That would be blood.
It can be done.
The bow. It's just warming. You can see that anytime at mine.
Again? Let's go.
This is going to be decisive.
Get him. Yes!
Ouch. Must really hurt.
Yeah, that's a big, Stephanos, that's a big can of worms that could go on and on. Let me try and work out this turn, and then I'll chat about it a little bit. I'm happy to. And yeah, I'd also love to get your take on, you know, why you feel like you're about done. I mean, to be fair, right? 10 years, especially if you've played consistently, is a long time to play a game. So it could just be that. It could just be straight up that, right? Like, but
The bigger they are,
oh, got him. Nice.
with arms like tree trunks.
Alright, do I move him? Oh, I have to move him, don't
That's
I? Get popped. Oh, he's 4 movement too. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'll chat more about that in a minute. Let's see. Gotta pick this up. Sorry, Too Tall Brown, you're one space away, so I gotta use Rub Pack.
good play. Placing the ball in a safer, possibly faster pair of hands.
Yeah, that's just about seals it. Oh, I
Nothing
can
more to
do
be
it.
said, really.
Road teammate, pick you up. Oh, where are you gonna go? I'm gonna go right here. 5+ landing.
Get up or get off the field.
I'd say that was a score. Yeah, I mean, every 7 years or so is what they say is that people change a lot, you know, pretty significantly in that time period. I will say though that the game design ideals have changed quite a bit from when I worked on it from the beginning. You know, when we were first making it, the
harder it is to
the
score.
core, like, sort of accepted
Possession is the key to winning.
idea about MMOs was they come for the game, the players come for the game, and they stay for the community.
A secret weapon.
Because if you look at games like Ultima Online, which have been around now for over 20 years, there's still people playing that game even though there's almost no content. And it's because of the community, right? So early on we got this idea that, you know, that's why people are there, right? They're there because they're stuck to the communities, right? And that's why they keep it becomes their social group sort of thing. So we wanted to stress, you know, the social elements of WoW as much as the game elements. And and I don't feel like the last 5-8 years have done that. I feel like they've stressed the game elements almost in a lot of cases at the cost of the social elements. You know, when I was still there, the idea for raid finder and cross-server grouping was proposed, and I was one of the few people that said this is actually a bad idea for the community reasons. But it was such great technology that no one could see past the damage that I felt like it was going to do. And sure enough, I feel like nowadays you log in, you jump in, you play with a completely random group of players that you will never play with again, most likely. And you just kind of keep doing that, and there's no, all the way through from the first level to max level, you can do this. And there's almost no socialization whatsoever. There's no reason to talk to any of these people because you will never see them again. It's usually not a very positive experience, you know, from a social standpoint. It's all about, you know, killing the boss, getting the loot, getting out of there, right? And that's all very short term in terms of like people's interest in the game itself, right? So, and it makes me sad because, you know, obviously MMOs are supposed to be a blend of both of those things, right? There's so many things that MMOs can't do well that it has to be, the ideal MMO is like this mix of fun, super fun gameplay and awesome communities that you love spending time with people, you know. And some of the older games did a better job of making them awesome social communities where you just want to log in and you don't even want to play the game really, you just want to hang out with your friends, and all the things that are there to do are just kind of props for you to play with your friends, you know, action figures sort of style. And WoW turned into a game, and they focused on all the game stuff, but very much less a social experience. And so here we are, and more people are getting tired of it because the game itself, although great, is very treadmill oriented and, you know, difficult to enjoy for a long time. I think as we sort of, once you peek back the curtain enough and you see you're just on this treadmill, the game gets harder and harder to enjoy. But they put so much work and so much good work into the gameplay of it that I can't blame people for going. Whoa! I can't blame people for going back and keep playing the game because, you know, that's where they put their emphasis. But it's possible, but, you know, again, it's that trade-off, right? Like, you're asking people to go back to a legacy server that doesn't have all the bells and whistles in order to try to recapture the fun social elements of the game that they remember when they first started. But they have to start over. You're not just starting over your character, you're starting over building friendships, unless you move your whole group of friends or your whole guild or whatever it is over into this new experience, which is going to be tough because the guilds that are active now in WoW are there for the game, and you're saying, hey, let's go give up all our loot and go play over here in a social fun time. And everyone's just, at least half of the people there are going to be like, no, I'd rather keep grinding away on my loot. get that boss progression ticked off, you know. And so I think ultimately, I think it's just sad that you have to make that decision. You have to choose between a good social experience and a good game experience, because the game was designed to be really good at both. And as the game aged, we felt like it was going to be more important to double down on the social stuff. But after I left, you know, the philosophy sort of changed over time. And you know, they have access to all kinds of metrics that I don't have anymore to tell them what's successful, you know. Is it the grinding for gear? Is it the social experience stuff that they put in? You know, like what's actually bringing people in and keeping them? Now, whether or not they can read that data well is, you know, a different question. But so who's to say that, you know, there wasn't, because I haven't played consistently in the last 10 years. But I did replay from first level to max level recently, and I did not make one friend. I got to max level, and I felt rushed the entire time I was playing. I felt like, can't stop and talk to somebody, I gotta keep going. It's like the game instilled in me this rush, which I've never felt in MMOs before. I've always just been a stop and smell the roses kind of player. And so, I don't know. It's just changed, you know, and things need to change. I mean, that's what they say, is that the only thing that changes is, or the only thing that doesn't change is that everything has to change. So, I don't know. Just to give a brief, somewhat brief.
He's coming to help his buddy. That's gonna hurt.
And so, you know, a second point, aside from the kind of social elements,
Gathering around that lone plate, like halflings round a sandwich.
I wish they would pay more attention to the group of people that are still
This is
leveling.
gonna be enough to come out on top.
I feel like they've gotten to the point where they stress being max level too much. And so you're like, well, if I'm not max level, so they're just constantly pushing you. And the game from 1 up until max level isn't the same sort of fun, polished experience that it used to be and could be. Like, people just feel like, yeah, I'm doing my work so I can get to max level. And then of course the max level is a totally different experience
Well, this guy is the best
that
player
you may
for the
not
job.
have been
What could possibly
prepared
go
for,
wrong?
you may not actually be interested in, but you've sort of been told the whole game, it's been implied that that's where you should be. And so it's the potential there is that not only are you not having a good time the whole time you're leveling, but when you finally achieve your goal, it wasn't what you thought it was, and it's not as fun as you wanted it to be. So, I don't know, a couple big picture things, I think, maybe mistakes on just the kind of philosophy behind the game. But, you know, the boss stuff they keep putting out is you know, amazing, you know, like some of the gameplay, it's great. Yeah, you know, it used to be, so here was the problem, right? There used to be all those boosts,
Jeremiah
and this is a huge complaint I had not too long ago, and it was like, you start the game, you're on these XP boosts, you walk out of, you know, your starting zone, and you have these quests, you have these 3 quests, and they're yellow, because they're like, okay, these are level appropriate. And you walk out and you kill 3 bandits on your way to doing your quest, and you're already level 3, right? And by the time you even get back to turn in your quests, they're gray, right? You're not getting any XP for them. And you're getting that sense, I shouldn't be here, I should be in the next zone. And so you're kind of consistently doing that, and like, you're missing all the story that's in those quests, even though a lot of people click through that. There's still an experience you're having, especially if you read it. And there's still, like, the gameplay is still built around you gaining experience at the correct rate, sort of thing. I just got my ball punked. And so the boosts were a big problem, I thought, you know, because just everyone was on this racetrack. Nothing made sense. You were constantly getting quest rewards that were garbage because they're all gray. You know, they're 4 levels below you because you level so fast. And so nothing really made sense. Nothing really clicked. The whole game flow of the game was off. And so it's interesting to hear that they nerfed that. So now you have to, you know... And the original goal was make sure that people were never out of quests, right? Okay, so you have some of the same complaints, like... Because I always wonder, you know, like, the people still playing WoW and are thinking of leaving, why are they thinking of leaving? You know, what could the game do differently, right? I haven't gotten onto the Reddit thing since I, you know, worked there. I haven't read the forums and tried to figure it out, right? But that was always just my impression, why I don't want to play anymore. And it was a game you know, like, when you're working on a game with a team, and it's a huge win if the entire team works on the game all day long, and then they go home and play it, right? Because that's the goal when you set out to make a game. Okay, well, what game do I want to play? And if you're passionate enough about the game, not just because it's your job, but you actually want to go home and play it, then there's this loop where it's like, I work on it all day, I go home and play it, see all the things I want to do, go in the next day, work on it, make it better, so I can go have a fun time, right? And it just feeds this loop, right? And so when I think about, like, what people, when you're looking at a team of players and gamers that are making a game, what is the sort of percentage of people that are going home and playing the game and enjoying it? And if and it was super high on the WoW team, right? And that was just amazing. And I've been on teams and worked on games where it was a really low percentage. And it was like, okay, well, clearly this game isn't going to hit the highs, the greats that you want it to, because people are just kind of clocking in and doing their thing, the thing that they're professional about and they're trained to do, but they're not desperate to make it this better experience. You know, like you are when you want to go home and play this game. I have no idea what to do here. I'm just surrounded by tackle and don't have the ball. And I could one die here. I could try to extricate myself from this mess. Let's see how this dodge works out. Hey! So, you know, why I bring that up is that I'm really curious nowadays how many people on the WoW team go home and play all the time. I've got some breathing space here. Is it time for a potato?
The team have possession.
This just seems like I'm gonna get clobbered. I can't remember why I started talking about that, but yeah, I mean, maybe that's the very reason that the game changed to what it is today, is because everyone was playing it so much in their off time but because they were at the highest levels doing the highest level content, then they figured, well, that's all that is worth working on. And so the game revolved around improving sort of the raid experience or the high level game, and everyone sort of forgot about Guy who's still leveling up, right? And Guy who's still leveling up was accounting for probably 6 to 9 million subs of their 12 and a half at one point. So it was like, that's a bad group from a business standpoint to ignore and to pretend is like. And then there's also the question of like well, I want more people to play with, so let's give them a bunch of boosts and get those 6 to 9 million people to max level, so there's just more people raiding and doing the stuff that I'm doing. but it's like you're rushing them, you're destroying their experience that they may be enjoying, and you're putting them in a new experience they may not enjoy and don't fully understand, right? So
Some defensive pressure gathering.
yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, yeah, I'm happy to give it. And don't get me wrong, there's so many amazing and talented people still at Blizzard that are working on the game. I know a lot of them personally,
That's it.
and still putting in.
And then pow!
But yeah, and the game is older. The game is, it's hard to keep people, like, just as it's hard to play a game for 10, 15 years. I know people that have been working on that game for 15 years, right? Like, so imagine how difficult it is to stoke up that passion and that drive to go into work and work on the game you've been working on for 15 years. And so, you know, they have sort of a rotation of fresh faces occasionally too, which keep things nice, because those people are all real excited to get in there and make awesome changes. But over time, without good leadership, the philosophy is going to change based on what those new people want, because the older guys are just kind of there and they're just like, oh, wow, whatever, man. You know, right? Like, I mean, that can be an easy thing to, on the two against with these roles is just killing me. So yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to keep, like, the philosophy, to keep it true, you know, like, I don't, like, the three, like, when I talk about I was one of the original 3 designers, none of those 3 designers are still on the project, right? So I've left the company, another one left the company who's one of the founders, and he's recently come back, but he's working on a new game, and it has a lot of the same complaints I have about the game. And the other one is sort of, you know, high-level director level now at Blizzard, and he's responsible for a lot of other things, you know. He was the one who kind of got Hearthstone off the ground and things like that. So, you know, he hasn't been able to be the leadership for, you know, the WoW team and its original philosophies. So, yeah, and so I have no idea, like, who became that voice of leadership and figure out, well, what are we going to do with this thing? All you really know is it's changed considerably, and you know, a lot more and more people are becoming sort of unhappy with how it's changed, and you know, that's reflected in the subs. I mean, I don't know what they're down to now, but oh yeah, okay, so I will answer this honestly, even though there was so much pressure on every person to never sort of give away what their favorite was, because it showed favoritism, right?
Look at all those players sitting down. There'll be trouble with the Union.
But I'm a Horde player by personality type, because the two personalities are very different. You can actually learn a lot about someone just by asking that question, right? And that's what's crazy about Horde and Alliance, the idea of the two factions, you know. I mean, the personalities that came out of these two things, right? Like, you learn a lot about people. I know people who have asked that question and gotten the answer, you know, they didn't want, because they were on the opposite side. And we're like, I don't know, like, it's almost like that speed dating thing where you jump out and you're like, no, I can't do it. Like, you learn a lot about me by asking that question. It's kind of crazy, but it's true. But here's the thing. I had max level Undead Mage, and I had a max level Human Paladin. The reason I played Paladin was because I was the class design lead. And the Paladin was the class that, of all the classes, didn't deliver on sort of the promise, right? Like, the promise was you got this hammer and you run around smashing things, and what it turned out to be was you sit in the back and you throw flash of light heals all day, right? And so we failed on that so badly that
Likes to be well assisted.
I played that class because I felt like it was my responsibility to find out what was going wrong and get in there and really dissect it and experience it so I could better. Right, so, and paladins were only available to Alliance at the beginning, so I ended up playing this human paladin, but I was always sneaking off to play my undead mage, you know, right? Like, and so I got both to max level, but and this was max level way back, but yeah, I'm definitely a horde personality, and I'm still completely amazed and pleased with how successful that system was at creating adversity within the game and defining people, and you know, like, people just love to take sides in real life, right? And so it just gave them this thing to attach to, and it became extremely important, right? And so that was pretty gratifying. It was also something that almost didn't make it in, like, because EQ was like the big game. EverQuest was the big game. And in that game, everyone played with everyone. There were no race restrictions as far as grouping or anything like that. You couldn't go into their cities, but that was kind of it. And I came from an Ultima Online background where PvP was a daily occurrence, the name of the game. There were no factions in that. It was just every man for himself, right? But I felt like the conflict was so important. And because we were making World of Warcraft, which is orcs versus humans, right? That PvP was essential. The faction, you know, alliance horde split was essential. The conflict between the two was essential. And thankfully, I convinced the founder, who was one of the other designers, and he went around and convinced everyone else how important it was to do Horde and Alliance. And so that's sort of how Horde and Alliance became a thing. Because it almost didn't. It almost used to be, you know, not to show my prejudice, but Care Bear Happy Fun Land, right? Where everyone was just, you're my friends, everything's great, let's go fight bad things together. And it was like, oh, you know, like, I just cannot imagine what the game would have been like and what it would have meant to people had there not been that faction split. From both a gameplay and personal, like, gosh, I remember people putting Horde or Alliance, like, stickers on their cars, right? Like, it was absurd, right, as far as, like, how deep and emotional that connection was. It was amazing.
Starting to look a little unusual.
Great. I smell obliteration.
But yeah, it was meaningful, it was important, and it's also just a huge gameplay. Like, we didn't focus on PvP at the start, but it was always there. It was always going to be something we could develop into because of the Horde Alliance split. Yeah, that's yeah. It's not uncommon, right? Like, that's how meaningful that choice is, and it's amazing. I mean, that's one of the reasons it's memorable and why it got so popular and why it made, you know, tons of money, right? Like, there's not many games out there that connect with people on an emotional level, you know, like that. You remember it for the gameplay, you remember it for, oh, remember this one boss or whatever that was super fun. But, like, to have it be part of you, you know, like, yeah, it's just crazy, right? I'm just surrounded here. I need to bust out.
That's
Need
quite
to get
a
my
mystery.
licks in.
I know. That weedy fella's gonna get splattered.
The lumps.
Oh, I'm excited, Jim.
With arms like three
Not sure this was the right.
There's only going to be one result in that.
I guess I can. No, he's still one guy. There's two questions there. Class design. I designed the talent system, the original talent system. It's gone through a million incarnations. I also designed some of the later revamps. Talent became my ultimate thing. Yeah, sort of the class abilities, spells, you know, talents, like the talent system itself, that kind of stuff. So obviously, you know, I had help with one of the best technical designers in the world. He was basically the super math genius that knew Excel inside and out. He would be, I don't know if you guys know Excel very much, but the stuff that program can do, like he created Tetris inside of Excel. It was pretty fun, but dude is amazing with Excel, like the stuff that he was able to do. And he basically did a lot of the game balance. So my focus was more gameplay, ideas, thematics, you know, progression, you know, stuff like that. He did a lot of the game number balance, you know, making sure that this does comparable damage to that the cost is worth this extra damage, you know. So huge help with that. Not help, but he did it. And that stuff became of critical importance, you know, like, because if you're even, you know, 5 or 10% below somebody, you're kicked out of the group because they want that other class, right? Yeah, Staff of Jordan. It's funny, there was another a designer that came on the class team once we expanded beyond me. This was, I think, after Burning Crusade, and his job was to work on class stuff, but he was experimenting with the editor, and he wanted to see how some of the loot stuff worked. And so he started prodding around in the editor, in the item section, and he was the guy that accidentally made everything in a certain zone drop a Staff of Jordan when it died. And unbeknownst to anyone, it didn't get caught until after it went out, this bug. And so the servers go up and like Staff of Jordan is being just dropped by everything. I think it was Faralos. Back when that was a zone. I don't even know if it still is, but so suddenly everyone had oh hey, I got away with it. So everyone had one of those stabs. It sold really well. It wasn't very good for the time, you know, like from a purple, you know, standpoint, but it sold really well, so everyone was getting super rich. We had to shut the servers down, reset. Like, we caught it within like a couple hours, and he was just like mortified, of course, because he made this error in this, you know, one of his first days, just messing around with the editor, that caused us to have to turn the servers off and wipe all that stuff. Pretty funny. But yeah, the staff is named after me. The Stone of Jordan, though, from Diablo, is not named after me, which became the currency of that game. So I'd love to be able to say that was named after me, but it wasn't. That was Blizzard North, and they had no idea who I was. So long time ago. Yeah, so I'm hopeful that, you know, UO, Ultima Online, this is something we looked at and we paid attention to back when we were making WoW, still has like 25% of its peak subscriptions 20 years later, right? So they're hovering right around 100,000, and their peak was 400,000, right? Considerably lower than WoW. Super impressive for the time. And EQ got up to 600 or something like that. EQ1. And that was blowing everyone's minds because of the amount of money it was made. And then WoW came along and it was just like, holy crap. And so, but if we assume that 25% is sort of where aged games are going to end up, then you're still looking at, 3 million subs on WoW, and that would be its low point, right, as it aged. And that's still a lot of people playing, and I would hope that at some point the developers sort of realize, hey, we need to focus on some of the things that keep people around, some of the reasons that UO still has 25% of its player base. But I don't know if they will, and I don't know if their low point will get a lot lower than that 25% because of that, right? Because people just get tired of the game, right? The game where you're treadmilling, But it's hard to say.
Can anybody catch the ball tonight?
Yeah, so we'll see. It's been an amazing project, though. Like, I worked on it long enough, or I consider it sort of my fourth child. I have 3 little girls, and I worked on that game about as long as the youngest of my girls. So it's like my fourth child. So I'll never like stop wondering what's going on with it or how it's doing, or like.
Haha, here's some friends.
And have that sort of emotional vested interest in it doing well, even though other people are taking care of it.
This player likes to be well assisted in a fight. That player is
Trying
down
to
like a sack of
SPP
snot
farm
on a
my
bitch.
gavos, huh? But yeah, I don't, I think also in general, just MMOs they were a huge thing, but they haven't evolved past that original stage, right? Like, we've WoW sort of like mined all of the depths of MMO potential in a lot of ways. And there's still occasionally ones coming out, but there were hundreds in development back when WoW was starting up. Like, most of them didn't make it to market, but yeah, so I'm excited for the next evolution. And it's been slow in coming, partly because, WoW hurt the market quite a bit. Like, the first question you had to ask yourself if you were making an MMO, or are we different enough from WoW where we can get our own audience, or are we better than WoW? And most couldn't say they were better than WoW, so they just kind of, after a while, they realized that, and they were just like, well, shut it down. If we're just going to be like WoW but worse, no one's going to play, except people that hate WoW for whatever reason.
Jim, I've lost count.
So they had to be extremely different, but even the different ones were so behind in some of the gameplay stuff, bells and whistles, and they were competing with a game that was potentially years old and had been developed and fine-tuned, and well, I didn't get much out of that game, did I? I got outblocked, that's a thing. Armor. Did anybody level?
Bit local
That's what I
by
really
playing
wanna know.
matches with
No?
nearby opponents. Or you can select
No
a coach to play
levels,
against
huh?
from anywhere in the world. Yes, even Lustria.
Is he dead? Is he dead to me? No. 80k. Is that another goblin? Do I want to go to 1050 before I get any skills? I think I would just want to hold here, right? Get a few skills and then get another goblin? Alright, I'll think about that. Alright, that was game 2 against Dwarf. Got beat up. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. And come check me out on Twitch and leave me a follow. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. See you soon for game 3.